Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the My Horse University and Equine Network's live webcast titled On the Trail Ride, Best Practices. The presenter today is Dr. Jenifer Nadeau, who is an associate professor and the equine extension specialist for the University of Connecticut, where she has worked since 2001. Jenifer grew up riding and working with horses on the trail rides, with hunter jumpers, draft horses, and race horses, and she rides both English and Western. Her research focuses on equine health, while she teaches horse science for undergraduate students and works in extension outreach with adult horse owners and 4-H horse project members. Dr. Nadeau is a native of New York. She received her bachelor's degree in animal science with an equine option from the University of Kentucky. She received her master's degree in comparative and experimental medicine and her PhD in animal science, both from the University of Tennessee. Tractor Supply Company is a sponsor of today's webcast. Tractor Supply is the largest retail farm and ranch store chain in the United States with more than 895 retail stores in 44 states. And in a few seconds, Eric Jordan from Tractor Supply Company will be joining us. Eric works as a buyer of feed and equine products.
Good evening, and thank you, Gwen. Tractor Supply is excited to be part of this webinar today. Our company has been an avid supporter of the rural lifestyle for more than 70 years. As you might expect, horse owners are very important to the lifestyle we serve. One thing our customers, particularly the horse owners, have been requesting for years is access to nationally branded feed. Well, I'm happy to announce we recently reached agreements with both Purina and Nutrina to carry select feed products in all of our Tractor Supply stores. Beginning October 5th, we started offering the top equine feed brands in the country, including Strategy, Omeline, and Equine Senior from Purina, as well as Safe Choice and the Life Design family of products from Nutrina. So far, our customer response has been very positive, and we're extremely excited about our new partnerships. We would like to invite each of the webinar participants today to stop by and see us at Tractor Supply. You can check out our new feed products and find the nearest store by visiting our website at www.tractorsupply.com/feed. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And I would like to just stop just a quick second here and do another check here of our sound. If anyone could go ahead and type in the chat and let us make sure know that we can hear you. Okay, I see Debbie there. Okay. Back on? Okay. Okay, I'm going to keep talking here through the next slide, and before we begin with Jenifer, maybe we'll do a quick check there. Please note that you are able to ask questions during the presentation via the text chat at the side of your screen. These questions will be answered by Karen Waite from Michigan State University. Karen is the Equine Extension Specialist in Michigan and teaches and advises equine students in the MSU Department of Animal Science. There will also be time at the end of the presentation for additional questions. The presentation from tonight will be recorded and uploaded to our website as well as the Tractor Supply website if you want to review the talk at a later date. And if everyone can still hear me, I would like to turn this over to Dr. Nadeau.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the webcast tonight. I'm glad that you could join us for our On the Trail Ride best practices. And first of all, we'll talk about the benefits of the trail riding for the rider, which probably many of you already know. So first of all, trail riding gives us the opportunity to enjoy our horses without the stress of competition. It also gives us a chance to enjoy quality time with our families, as you can see with me and my boyfriend Dave here. And we can socialize with other horse lovers. I'm sure we've all had great conversations while riding our horses. And we can also join organized trail rides as a social gathering, ride with our friends, go to a dude ranch and check things out. It gives us a great opportunity to observe nature, because since your horse is also an animal, a lot of animals won't shy away as quickly, so you'll get to see some new new animals out there, and you can explore new terrain. I'm always finding new trails out on our lands, and that's a really great thing to be able to find some more places to ride. It also helps improve your equitation, because going up and down all those hills, crossing the streams, and learning to be ready to expect anything really helps you to improve your equitation. And also you can build your confidence, because getting into all sorts of different situations on the trail increases your confidence in your abilities as a rider. And also, I think it's just really a great opportunity to get out and relax. So that's why I created a trail riding practicum at the university, so that the students could unwind and enjoy trails just like we get to. So next, for the horse, we can get increased responsiveness from our horses by riding them out on the trails, because we're teaching them to go over obstacles, negotiate trees and other terrain. Also, we can teach them to quickly recover from distractions. Things like wildlife popping out and things like that are great for situations that might occur in the show ring. It also gives us a great playground and practical environment to practice in maneuvers like backing, some forehand and rear hand pivots, doing leg yields to avoid hitting your knee on those trees, and also gives you a chance for gait transitions, practicing how to smoothly change from one gait to another. As well, we can teach our horses to better negotiate obstacles and learn how to do it in a balanced manner, and like I said, have better balance in general. It also improves their muscling and conditioning, because we're asking them to go up and down hills and negotiate different things, and we can give them a change of scenery. What the trail teaches, I think that it really just builds a rapport between the horse and rider, helps to improve the communication between the horse and rider, and really gives us confidence in our ability as a team to face new situations. And also, when we are faced with unexpected or dangerous situations, it teaches us to recover faster from these sorts of things. So before heading out on the trail, the first thing that we want to do is really make sure that we check over our tack, because that could be a real situation. For the saddle, we want to make sure that we, first of all, when we saddle our horse, we lift our saddle pad up into the saddle, because that's going to make sure that the gullet and things clears. It gives a passageway for air, and that's going to be really great. Also, we want to check and make sure that our tree is not broken or anything. We can put our saddle up against our hip and push it against ourselves and see if our tree is broken. We also need to check our leather and stitching, and that's why after a ride we should really make sure that we check over our tack. We also want to make sure our girth is tight, for obvious reasons. I don't know if you have ever come off by not tightening your girth, but when I was young I experienced that quite a bit. So we want to check that before we mount, after we mount, and then again sometime during the ride to make sure that it's nice and secure. Also, for our bridle, we want to check over the Chicago screws, make sure that none of those are loose. We also, again, want to look at our leather and stitching, make sure none of our leather is cracking, all of our stitching is secure, all of our buckles are secure. And we also want to check our fit. I know that here we have different people using the tack, and sometimes I'll go and my bridle seems way too tight for my horse, and I'll need to adjust it again. So that's another thing to look at. Also, we want to make sure that the tack properly fits the horse, so we're not causing it any discomfort. And then you might want to consider leg protection. Of course, there are pros and cons for that. The pros being that you protect the legs, but the cons being that if you don't properly wrap the legs, these could fall off during the ride and cause a problem. Or also, they could just create a hazard in general. But if we use something like a sport boot, we might minimize that. We might also want to consider what would happen if they get wet, because that too could cause a situation. And additionally, we don't want to use a tie down or martingale, because the horse will be unable to lower its head when stream crossing or anything like that, so we don't want to do that. We should also consider a breast collar and breeching or a tail crupper if we have saddle problems where our saddle might be sliding back or possibly sliding forward depending on the terrain that we're going over. And in season, we might want to consider putting on a fly bonnet, as we see the woman in the picture helping her granddaughter by putting on a fly bonnet for her horse. And there's some really great ones that are actually fly nets that go over the entire horse's head. Then for first aid, we should always really have some first aid knowledge before we go out. Hopefully we won't need to use it, but it's best to have some sort of first aid. You could take a basic Red Cross course, or you can go to a solo to take a wilderness first aid course if you're going to be out in the wilderness. That's something you might want to consider. And then we always want to carry a first aid kit for the rider and a first aid kit for the horse. We should also include in that a hoof pick and a multi-purpose knife, and consider putting wire cutters in. And then we want to have a cell phone that's on our person, not on the horse, because if we have a cell phone on our person and we are not with our horse anymore because something has happened, we'll still be able to get some help. And then we should bring a lead rope. You can see in the picture that I have my lead rope attached to my horse, but I thought about this later, and I don't really do this anymore. I tie it to the Latigo straps on my Western saddle, which I tend to use when I'm leading a trail ride, because that way I can carry more gear, like my first aid kit and thing, although some English saddles do have places to tie that on the cantle. But I bring along a lead rope, and I have my horse wear a halter underneath the bridle, or there's those great new bridles that have the ability to let you go ahead and detach your bit so that you can tie your horse. And also you should bring a flashlight and consider bringing a reflective vest. And first aid kit for the rider. This is a list of different things that you might want to consider, and like Gwen said, this is going to be up, so I'm not going to belabor these points. This is from the American Red Cross, so if you wanted to know what you should do, you should just go ahead and look at the Red Cross site for what you should bring along. They always recommend now these breathing barriers so that if you have to do CPR on another rider, you won't get any infectious diseases or anything like that. These are some additional items that you could bring along for the people that are on your trail rides. And then to think of for the horse and in general, you would want to bring emergency contact phone numbers. These other items are things that might be useful, like duct tape can always rig something up if you need to while you're out on the trail. And this comes from the My Horse University Trail Riding 101 short course that is being offered, which I think Gwen will be talking about at the end of our webcast. Also, you'll see some other items here that are common in a first aid kit, and it's good to know your horse's vital signs before you head out, what is normal for that horse, so that you know when things are abnormal. Also, like I said, a spare halter or something like that in case something should happen while you're on the trail. And then these are the other basic, like the wire cutters that I mentioned earlier, and the hoof pick. And a shoe puller, if the horse's shoe becomes loose, might be useful. So before you head out on your ride, you should always let someone know your plans, let them know where you're going and that sort of thing. And you really don't want to ride alone. I mean, I know a lot of us sometimes take chances and we ride alone, but it's really not safe, because if something happens, there's just us, and that's how horses get loose and things like that, so we really should not ride alone. We also should, if we're going to a park, we can check in with a park ranger, because that will let us know if there's any existing conditions out there, like maybe there was a storm the other day and a trail is blocked or something like that. It might be good just to check in with a park ranger and see if there's anything like that that you haven't thought of. If you're taking a long ride, you might want to consider bringing extra cell phone batteries. Also a whistle or two-way radio if you don't want the intrusion of a cell phone. That way you could signal for help. And in the ring, you might want to practice how to handle different situations. Definitely you want to be prepared before you head out on the trail. So you'll want to try crossing water, what to do if the horse spooks, how to do a one-range stop, and that sort of thing. And then you want to stay found while you're on the trail. So you should have a map for the region that you're going to, and also know how to use that. And then you want to bring a compass or a GPS. And the GPS may run out of batteries, so that's why it's always good to have a map and know where you are on the map, so that if that happens, you're all set. And then you want to ride with someone who knows the trails for the first time that you're out there, because you might not know what's going on, but they will. If you're lost, you should really just stay put, or you could follow, if you recognize where you've already been, follow back the way that you've been until you get to the last known place that you were on the trail. But you really shouldn't try following streams or things like that because they can go further into the wilderness. Your horse should be able to find its way back, so if you offer your horse its head, it'll often find the way back out of the trail. And then signaling or calling for help is definitely another option if you're lost. So when you're going to the trail, you should still bring your negative Coggins or health papers if you're traveling out of state. So in state, you would just want to bring your negative Coggins saying that your horse is negative for equine infectious anemia, because you certainly wouldn't want to transmit that. And then I always recommend wearing an ASTM SEI approved helmet every time, every ride, no matter how quiet your horse is. I mean, I just don't think that it's worth taking a chance with your head. I mean, I've gotten bucked off so hard that my helmet brim is broken open out on the trail, and I had to walk back to the barn, but I felt like at least I had my helmet, because without it, I probably wouldn't be here today. So helmets are really key when you're out on the trail, especially with all the different situations that you can run into out there. Even with a quiet horse, things can startle it. Again, check your cinch or girth before mounting, and also again during the ride. Keep your horses that kick in the back. Identify them by putting, the typical red ribbon in the tail that we use to identify horses that kick. And you do not want riders to pass at a different speed than the gait you're traveling at. So they should maintain the same gait when passing. And then the person who's passing should let others know when they're passing and what side they're going to pass on. And they should choose a clearing for that. You want to keep at least a horse length back from the rider in front of you. Maybe a horse kicks at a fly or something like that. You don't want it to end up kicking your horse or your leg. And if passing a branch, a good way to handle that actually is, instead of letting it swing back into the next rider or next rider's mount's face, if you lift it up, it falls back down in place. So don't push it forward, but rather lift it up and it'll fall back down into place. Hikers and bikers and vehicles should all yield to you, but they may not. So you need to be prepared for those sorts of situations. And skiers, likewise, I mean, they should yield to you, but that might not happen. You also want to put riders with less experience in the middle of the group, and that sort of thing. Also, one thing that I try to do when I see a hiker, biker, or vehicle is I try to speak to the people that are there and be friendly, because we want to share the trail with the people, and if we can make it a positive experience, maybe they're going to be more likely to, yield to us next time, or think about, horses. Or sometimes I'll say, like, could you talk to me, because my horse isn't sure what you are, just so that it knows you're a person. If you need an equipment adjustment and you have a lead rider, you should let the lead rider know and go ahead and stop your horse to fix it. And you never want to tie a horse with the bridle reins, and you only want to tie to safe or secure items on the trail. Like, you don't want to tie to a low-lying thin branch that could break, because then your horse will be loose. Also, it would be good to know the quick release knot for tying out on the trail, so that you know how to do that. And also, I know that in the site, they're going to be talking about the different kinds of ways that you would tie for camping and things like that. So for trail etiquette, when you have the lead horse, they should be a well-trained horse. A lot of times I've gone on rides at dude ranches or stables, and their horse is pretty wild, and they're riding it because no one else can. But really, the lead horse should be well-trained, because it sets the precedent for the other horse. It's the lead horse. The other horses are going to react according to how the lead horse is. So really, that horse should be well-trained. And then you want the lead rider to be experienced and know where they are going, because they're leading you. And also, you want the lead rider to block the trail with their mount if they're in a safety situation. So you would turn your horse sideways to block the trail. Or also, for tack adjustment, it's good to do while the backup rider attends to whatever situation might be there. And in a first aid situation, you would want the most experienced person in first aid to attend to the situation, and the other person to come up and block the trail, which hopefully your first aid person would be your backup rider. And then you want the lead rider to alert other riders to any gate transition, stops. A lot of times we'll hold up our arm to let people know that we're going to be stopping. Also to wildlife and to other hazards that might come up on the trail, like loose dogs or things like that. And if stallions are allowed along on your trail ride, you would want them to be ridden in the front, and you would want them to be ridden by people that are experienced in riding and handling stallions. how to determine where to go is what we're going to talk about next. And first you want to try to find someone who rides the trails in your area and go with them. That's probably the best way to get to know some trails. Or you could join or visit a horse organization like a club or the State Horse Council and ask for advice on where to ride in your state. You can check out state park websites for horse trails and maps. And you want to consider you and your horse's level of experience. You also want to consider the difficulty of the terrain and your horse's conditioning, and make sure that none of these are something that you're not going to be able to take on. You also want to make sure that you add a route with a potable water source, water that's drinkable, so your horse will be able to drink. Or you can loop around back to the trailer if riding all day and there are no potable water sources. So then you want to organize it so that you have a nice loop. Also, with route findings, you want to be familiar with trail markings, so we're going to go over a little bit of that actually tonight. This is one of our trails going into the Yukon forest. And a lot of times, like, even when I'm hiking, I notice, like, sometimes I'll think, I don't think I'm really on the trail, because there'll be a lot of obstructions or blowdowns or tough terrain. And especially in an area where trails are maintained, usually you're not on the trail if you think you're not. So the best thing to do then is to turn around and go back to the last location where you're definitely on the trail, and then look for the trail. Okay, so let's go over some trail markings that you might see. So first of all, this marking, just a plain green marking on the tree would indicate where the trail is. So two markings lined up like this in a row show that you have reached the end of the green rectangle trail. So on our slides, we have reached the end of the green rectangle. Now, if you look at the lower markings that we see, you can see that the one marking is offset higher than the other. This one shows that you're on the green rectangle and this trail turns to the right. Now when we look at the next marking, you can see again that offset, and you can see that the left marker is offset, so this tells us that we're on the green rectangle and the trail turns to the left. And if you see this regular marking here, that means you just continue straight. So what should you bring with you? I mean, this is really going to depend on the season and that sort of thing. So we could consider rain gear, sunglasses or sunscreen, a safety vest if we might be out at night or if we're riding during hunting season, insect repellent if we're out during summer, hoof pick, easy boot, multi-purpose knife. We've talked about a lot of these other things. Maybe a stack and some water, some riding gloves. So we might want to think about bringing along these sorts of things. And if we're in a cold climate, we also might want to consider bringing along a snowball. It's like a snowball remover that we can get. It's like a little popper to pop that out, or also to shoe our horses with that. So with a pad that will pop out, a snowball pad. Sorry, didn't finish my thought there. So how to prepare. So first of all, we want to make sure the horse is properly conditioned for the trails. So at first, we may need to do a little ring work or perhaps take some shorter rides before we're ready to go on a long ride. And then we want to monitor the horse's conditioning. We can take the pulse and respiration rate of the horse before and after the ride, and we want to see a fairly quick recovery time, and that's going to tell us how we're doing. And as the horse's condition improves, there's going to be a faster recover time. We also want to make sure the rider is properly fit so that they're actually able to walk or something if need be, if the horse becomes lame or is injured while on the trail. And also you want to select a horse that you feel will be behaviorally suited to trail riding, so that also is important. If the horse is very flighty in the ring, you might have some work to do before it's ready to head out on the trail. So how to select the right horse? First of all, we want to find a horse that is a good match for the rider. So the rider needs to be comfortable and to trust their horse. So that's very important. Also, the horse should have good balance, and it should have physical ability. It should be able to do what you want to do. It should be capable of that. And we also want it to have a nice, comfortable way of going so that you can enjoy yourself while you're out there riding. Because if you're not comfortable, you're not going to enjoy it. And I know several of you that were logging into the webcast were talking about your different gaited horses, and those have become very popular for trail riding because they have such a comfortable way of going. And for you really want them to have solid training and a good temperament, because that's going to make your ride much more enjoyable. When crossing a road, you can, if riding on the road, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you ride facing traffic. It's just kind of like being a pedestrian where you want the riders to see you, so that's a good idea. And then you want to wear clothing that is visible. Actually, now my backup rider and I both wear reflective vests because that lets everyone see us. Also get the horse acclimated to traffic by ground handling before you take it out riding it. And if riding in a group, what I do is I have my backup rider come to the front, and they stand on the yellow line and they block road. They hold up their hand and block the road and stop the traffic while the others cross. And then you should have the other riders walk directly across the road, not trot across, just walk quickly across the road in a straight line. And, you know, there might be some people who are going to be a little obnoxious in their cars. They might honk, or you know, stones might fly and things like that, so you kind of have to be a little prepared for that, but hopefully they're going to be accommodating to you and your horse. And I always like to wave and thank the people after we finish crossing. And then for crossing streams, you would like to have your horse first perhaps negotiate water in the ring so that it is prepared for this water crossing. And then what I like to use, what I call the sandwich effect, when I have a horse that seems a little unsure of water crossings, what I do is I put that horse between two experienced horses who are perfectly capable and quick about crossing, not really quick, but readily cross water. So I'll put that less experienced or concerned horse in between those two horses, and it just kind of convinces that horse to go right on. Also, if the rider looks straight ahead and not down at the stream, and if you allow the horse to touch the water with a hoof, maybe take a drink, just keep encouraging it to go forward. If I know I have one of the horses in my group that I take trail rides out on that might be a little hesitant about streams, I actually don't tell the rider, because if they're riding confidently forward and I have it sandwiched in between two horses that cross streams readily, I know that's going to make it much more likely to cross the stream than if I tell the rider and they're nervous about it. So being confident in that situation and practicing crossing water in your ring can help as well. And even just puddles that might be in your driveway. So the trail situation next is going uphill, and when going uphill, as we know, that changes the horse's center of gravity, so you really just kind of want to stay out of the horse's way. And this was why earlier I mentioned possibly using a breast collar to keep the saddle in place if it tends to slip back on your horse. And also you should lean forward slightly to center your weight over the horse. Going downhill, again, when you're going downhill, your center of gravity is going to change. So you're going to want to actually lean back slightly to center your weight over the horse. And then it's also really important to trust the horse. A lot of times you might be going down some fairly steep hills and things like that, but if you trust the horse and give it a little bit of head to go down and negotiate the hill, then that's going to be really great. And you also want to look up and ahead. And as you mentioned, going downhill, the crupper will act to stop the saddle from sliding forward. So thanks, Karen, for adding that. And the next thing that we have that can arise on the trail is the occurrence of wildlife. So suddenly a deer pops out in front of you. A lot of times that can cause a horse to spook. The horse is a prey animal, so they are sensitive to emergence of sudden things that might be predators and that sort of thing. So one thing I like to do is keep a fairly bold horse at the lead of the ride that's not going to be afraid of every single thing that it sees. And also you can teach a horse to recover more rapidly through ground handling and exercises, which we're going to be talking about in a minute. There's actually a great idea with an exercise ball, which sounds a little crazy, but I was watching a video on that lately, and that seems like it might work really well. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And again, if there's wildlife, there might be hunters. So making sure you're wearing your reflective clothing during hunting season when out on the trail is a good idea. The next thing when getting ready for trail situations is to practice some different ideas, like the one rein stop. This gets the horse to give its head to you in either direction. And you can do this first on the ground and then in the saddle. So basically you pull on one rein, like perhaps the left rein. You could do this at first with a halter and lead rope. You don't have to do it with a bit right away if you don't want to. But pull on the one side of the rein and get the horse to turn around and give its head. So that's what you wanted to do. So then when you're out on the trail, you can then work up to being mounted and asking the horse to do a one rein stop. Another idea when out on the trail is desensitization, which we use for our horses all the time. So getting them used to scary objects, maybe like, umbrellas, flapping, things like that, getting them to accept that. One thing that Stacy Westfall, who was the one she has a video called, Rides DVD actually, called Ride Safely on the Trail. She uses stick and string to teach the horses to control their emotions. So she'll flip a stick and string, kind of like those carrot sticks that you see with the natural horsemanship trainers using. So she'll have this stick and string and she'll flip it around while she's ground handling the horse and see the horse's reaction. So she walks away from the horse flipping the stick and string, keeping the horse with her while gently ripping the ground. And she repeats the motion at the same rate. You might see licking and chewing and things like that. First of all, you're going to start with only like 30% of your ability to whip the ground, then work up to 100% of your energy to whip the ground, and then turn and face the horse and do this slowly at first, and then gradually keep doing that. So that's another idea that she has for desensitization. Of course, you're not going to want to accidentally hit the horse with that. You're going to want to whip the ground with that. Next, crossing foreign objects. So you can try different things like tarps and things like that, and different cavaletti. You can bring in some log-like cavaletti and things like that, and practice having the horse cross it. And if you think it's going to be a problem, you could do it on the ground, sending the horse forward while on a lunge line and getting it to cross these objects, and then while you're mounted. And then her idea with the exercise ball is basically, well, she illustrated it by throwing an exercise ball into the ring, which I don't recommend that you do at first because you'll have quite an excitement after you do that because it's so new to them. But basically, the first thing she does is just puts the ball into the ring. And then the horse is very interested in that, but she wants the horse to focus on her. So she'll whip with the stick and string to get the attention back on her. And then she'll gradually walk the horse around the ball while using the stick and string. Then she'll tap on the ball with rhythm and do that until the horse accepts it. Then she'll roll the ball toward the horse to get the horse used to the ball. And then finally, she can actually roll the ball into the horse so that the horse actually runs into it. And she ends up mounted playing soccer with her horse after doing that. So you can see how you can really work up to things with these different things, and it'll give you a lot to practice with, maybe even when you're not able to go out on the trail. And then also the water hole, you can introduce a water hole by making your own puddle and sending the horse over it while you're on the ground with a lunge line, and then getting the horse to go under with the saddle. Go over it with the saddle. And again, puddles in your driveway are another way to do that if you don't want to make a water hole in your ring. And then, so basically, if we slow our horse down on the trail, it shows that we have control and trust with our horse. So, Stacy Westfall always talks about, practicing these different gait transitions to show control and trust. And also let the horse investigate unfamiliar objects. You need to remain patient with them. Stream crossings might be something new to your horse, and then you want to just let them get used to that. And so you just really want to stay patient and keep rewarding for success. So every time your horse gives for you, then you want to reward by releasing. So the main thing to remember is that as soon as they give, you want to release so that they realize that they are being rewarded. And the more you put your horse in these safe situations, the more the horse will have confidence in you as a rider, the more trusting it will be, and the more willing it will be to tackle any new terrain or any new situations that arise while out on the trail. And that will really make your trail riding experience much more enjoyable. I just wanted to mention these additional resources that I used with preparing my talk, the My Horse University Trail Riding 101 short course, and Stacy Westfall's Ride Safely on the Trail. And also I received some information a little bit later about the Certified Horsemanship Association's Trail Guide Manual, which offers 4 levels of horsemanship. It also talks gives different trail riding information and camping and that sort of thing. So Certified Horsemanship Association offers that. I really want to thank you for the opportunity to give this talk today and to participate. And if you have any questions about trail, I'm happy to answer anything that you have and try to do my best to help out. But again, thank you for attending, and I really appreciate it. And thank you, My Horse University.
Yes, so just as Jenifer mentioned, we still have some time here. We've got about 20 minutes or so. So please stay on here for a little while, and Jenifer will be taking some questions. Go ahead and type your question in the chat area, and Jenifer, if you could just say the question out loud so everyone can hear it and we can have it recorded and then answer it, that would be great.
Okay, the question we had was how to get the horse to slow down to a walk in the round pen. You try stepping in front of his hips. I would say that what I would normally do is look the horse in the eye, and I would step more toward the shoulder to do that. So like, because when you're getting a little in front of the hips, you're a little in front of them, you normally would be behind them to drive them forward. But I think maybe to just be up again, a little closer to the shoulder might help slow him down. If you missed the presentation, you'll be able to see it again by going on to the My Horse University website and looking at it there. The horses, another question was how do you stop the eating of all leaves and tall plants, etc. on the trail? I guess that's where, perhaps you want to try to anticipate these things happening. It's hard because horses, it's kind of like us on a cruise ship with a huge buffet. There's all kinds of leaves and things like that all around. But the best thing probably to do is to try to anticipate it, and as soon as you see it coming, to stop the horse from doing it. That's not going to be easy to do, but it's something that you could kind of practice doing. Question about a person that is having trouble with the horse. As soon as it hears traffic, the horse gets very nervous, and how to get her comfortable. I guess the best thing that you might be able to do would be either to get maybe every day lead the horse near traffic, keep working with it around traffic while you're on the ground and feeling safe so that you're not nervous and the horse isn't anticipating anything like that. And then I think also what you could do with that is if there's any way you could, if there's a round pen or something that you could set up near an area where there is more traffic but it would be secure, that might desensitize it by a lot of exposure. But basically what you would want to do is just try to expose it to the situation that you're going to be in while you're in a safe place, so that you're not giving any cues to the horse that it's a situation where you should be nervous, and you can work through that. Oh, okay, and then another person asked how to get their horse to keep his head up. So maybe the problem is that your horse is looking at the ground because it's worried about where its feet are going, because that there's obstacles and things like that. So when I'm riding, I let my horse look at the ground as long as it's not a concern to me. But another way you could do it is, by pulling up on the reins and then allowing the horse to have its head when you think obstacles are more difficult. So that's something that you could try doing. I don't know if your horse would pull far away with that. I'm just like kind of going through your questions gradually here and trying to, I skim back too fast on some. I think someone else was asking, like, when they're going down a hill, a lot of times their horse kind of bolts through the terrain, and I've had that experience with my horse too. What I do is kind of like what they do in a dressage situation where they do the oh my goodness, I'm trying to think of the name of it, like a half halt. So I keep doing a half halt where I take up on the rein a little and then release, take up and release, and that gets my horse not to go down. That slows my horse down there. So that's what I do for that. So when you turn back toward the barn or trailer and your horse is rushing back, that's another question that someone had, how to deal with that, and the horse isn't paying attention to cues. Now that's very common for a horse to do that, and a lot of it is that basically what happens is when you're like that, the horse associates the trailer or the barn with going home and not having to work anymore. So one way to overcome that is that when you return to the trailer or the barn, you do some work. So you keep riding around there, practicing different gait transitions or all kinds of things for maybe like another half an hour, 15 minutes, whatever it is, and keep doing that for a while. So then your horse will no longer anticipate going home, because if it associates getting back to the trailer or the barn with good things, then of course it's going to want to hurry back. But if you start making it work when it gets back, then it's going to be like, maybe being out on the trail is much better than I thought. So that's another way to deal with that. Another thing that you might run into on the trail is the jigging, where horses are jigging on the trail. I'm not sure exactly why your horse might be jigging, but one thing you could do is probably, I don't know, if it's nervous about something that's going on out on the trail, maybe have some other horses around it to offer some comfort, or maybe you just need to work with more different situations to get the horse to kind of relax. Make sure that you're sitting far back in your saddle and that you're relaxed. I'm not even sure exactly what might be causing the jigging of your horse on the trail and whether that might be associated with going home, but if it is, then again, working through that. And a lot of horses too will have high energy, and so maybe you'll need to work them a little before you go out on the trail to stop this jigging, this excessive energy. Or another way to do it is to practice some different techniques, like do some different things like leg yields, half halts, things like that, so that the horse doesn't know what's coming next, and it won't be jigging because its mind is filled with all these different things that it has to do. So that might help. That's what we do a lot of times on the trail, or even making circles, different things like that. That could help. Someone wanted me to address dogs on the trail ride, what to do when dogs come out. I run into that a lot around here when we're riding. Loose dogs will just come barreling up to us, some barking at us, some running around our legs. I guess the first thing to do would be, if you see them coming, alert everyone that's with you on the ride that the dogs are coming. So that's what I usually do, is I say, loose dogs coming, so that everyone knows. Some people may feel, if their horse gets upset about loose dogs, they might feel more secure on the ground. And I feel like this, and I know that in the video, Stacy Westfall talks about how, there's nothing wrong with getting off if things are not going well, because you're gonna, ride again. But if you stay on and it's a big wreck, then that's no fun. So you might want to dismount if you think it's gonna be a problem. A lot of times what I do is I call out to the owner. I'm like, could you get your dogs? And then hopefully, the owner is able to stop them before they come up to the horses and put them back on a leash or whatever, what have you, or hold them until we go by. But sometimes they do run up to the horses, and the best thing to do is remain calm, talk to your horse, not to get tense yourself, because the horse is going to sense that. Stay calm and again, try to get the owner to get the dogs under control. If you think it's a safety issue, I would get off and hold my horse. So with the saddle slipping while you're riding, sometimes what you can do, sometimes those new like neoprene girths are a little bit slippery, so I just keep checking my girth over and over, tighten it as much as I can, maybe get someone on the ground to tighten it before I head off. That's another thing to do, and then again, just keep on tightening it while you're riding. The other riders that insist on bringing their dogs was another question. Some people do really want to bring their dog, and you aren't really comfortable with that. I would just, be upfront with them and say, look, I'm really not comfortable with your dogs coming along. My horse really doesn't like dogs, and talk to them about that. But the other thing to do is just to get them used to seeing dogs, bring them around dogs and that sort of thing, and then there's no problem. But the best thing to do would probably be, like on the ground to do it. And I think someone else asked me, what kind of gear that I like to bring with me, and I hate to promote any particular thing, but I find very handy. You saw the first aid kit that I carry by Equimedic, and it has in it enough pockets and things that I can put things for the rider and things for the horse in it as well. So I really like to bring that, and I always bring my extra halter and my lead rope and my cell phone on my person, so that I have that with me. So those are the main things that I bring along, and I only ride for like an hour and a half though. I'm not going on a full day ride. But if I was going longer, I would tie my raincoat if I think it's going to be rainy behind my saddle. And again, those English saddles have places where you can tie different things and have cancel attachments, some saddle bags now, so those can be found. So I think we've asked answered most of the questions that we have. Does anyone know any other questions that we should be answering? Does anyone have anything else they wanted to know? For the buddies, the next question we have is about buddy sour horses that really need to be with one of their buddies. I guess some ways to help with that would be to gradually get them used to it while they're back at the barn, taking one horse away for a while and gradually working up to more and more time away so that they're not so excited. And for the horse that you're taking away, if it's your horse, rewarding it in some way, maybe offering it a treat or taking it away only to feed it for its night feeding, so that it begins to associate being away from that horse as being just fine. That might be another way to deal with the buddy sour horse. And then someone was asking about the pros and cons of boots or whether they should use trail shoes. And so that is a question that I guess you and your farrier would need to decide which one you wanted to do more. But the good thing about shoes is, you could put pads on that can help prevent things from getting in the feet, or borium for better traction in the winter. So that's another idea. But then again, the boots can also be equally protective. We're actually going to be doing a study to look at hoof growth and how that's affected by the easy boots, well, any kind of boot, versus shoes. So that's something that we're going to be looking into. But I think it's really a matter of personal preference and what works best for your horse, rather than, whether it's good or bad. And then another question was about how to diplomatically get a group of riders to act as a group rather than as all individuals. And that can be difficult because with the trail group, I find that they're very independent, and that's one of the things that they like about the trail is the freedom of it. But I think that one thing to do is to have, if you're going to be the lead rider or someone has arranged this ride, to just go into it and say to them, like, we're going to be riding together as a group, and this is what we want to do on the trail. This is where we're going to be going, and we need everyone to stay together and not go running off because there's different hazards that might come up, and the people in front are going to be alerting you to those hazards. And it'll just be a lot more fun if we all agree on a pace that we're going to maintain, and maybe even have that worked out ahead of time. And maybe there'll be time that you want to ask, do you want a canter, do you want to trot, whatever, but make it so that it's everyone is participating, and it's whatever the least comfortable rider is doing, really. So if one rider is really not comfortable in that group, then they probably should try to find another group that they could ride it in that they're going to feel comfortable with, because it's really no fun to be rushed through your ride if that's not what you enjoy. So I know that part is tough because it requires a little diplomacy and just really putting things out there. But I think that people respond to that if you say, these are the things that are going to come up, and this is the pace that I would like to go at, and get everyone to agree up front. I think that might help.
Okay, we've had some great questions this evening, and we'd like to thank everyone for your attention. Obviously, we'd like to thank Dr. Nadeau for her presentation, and also Karen Waite for helping to answer all these questions. Obviously, we've had a lot of great questions this evening, and just want to mention again that this presentation has been recorded, and so if you would like to come back and listen to it again and see the answers in the chat area and listen to Jenifer, you will be able to do that. We'll be sending all of you a link to the recorded webcast in an email later on this week, so be looking for that. We also would like to once again acknowledge our sponsor for our webcast today, and I know previously Eric kind of got cut off a little bit, so just want to let you know that on October 5th, Tractor Supply did start offering some top feed brands in the country, including Strategy, Omaline, and Equine Senior from Purina, as well as Safe Choice and Life Design from Nutrina. So just really wanted to say that once again, and please, we really appreciate them as a sponsor, and check out their website at tractorsupply.com/feed. One last thing that I'd like to bring up to everyone is I'd like to let you know about an online course on trail riding that My Horse University and Equine Network has developed. Equine Network is the publisher that comes out with Practical Horseman and Horse and Rider and Equus and so forth. This course was developed by experts at MSU, Michigan State, and other major universities. And this takes you through the process of selecting the right horse and equipment, goes into in-depth into feeding and conditioning the trail horse, helping you learn about safety on the trail and etiquette and all sorts of great things. The course is aimed at helping riders get the most enjoyment from their trail riding experience, whether they're at home, on vacation, or even in a competition. So for more information on this online short course, and this is a self-paced course that you could go through. Thank you there, Kenna. That was wonderful little, she says the price is right too. And the price is $50 for the course, and you do get access to it for 6 months. And after that 6 months, if you've completed all the requirements of the course, you will receive a certificate of completion. So if you would like more information on that, just visit our website at www.myhorseuniversity.com. Or if you have any questions, or even if you have any questions that maybe we didn't get to tonight, feel free to email us at info@myhorseuniversity.com, and we will forward it on to an expert that can help answer the question that you have. So one last thing, I know, thank you for all of your attention and so forth. We do have another webcast, free one, coming up in November. That one's going to be on November 24, and it deals with breeding. The title of the talk is Why Won't My Mare Get Pregnant? So it should be a wonderful talk from Dr. Kathy Anderson from the University of Nebraska. So once again, feel free to give us any comments and suggestions, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.